Just to kind of kick us off, Samantha, why don't you introduce
Sure.
yourself to everybody who is watching and going to watch in the future?
Sure. My name's Samantha Hope Galler. I'm a principal dancer with Miami City Ballet, and I am going into my 12th season here with the company. I am originally from outside of the Boston area, and I grew up there, trained in a very small school, which really gave me my base foundation, my ballet training. And then I had a long journey with auditioning and trying to get a job. Yeah, that's like a whole nother segment. Okay. And and I moved around a bit, so I made my way to Cincinnati Ballet and then joined Alabama Ballet and then was fortunate enough to get a job here in Miami. So in 2014.
Mm-hmm.
And I love living in Miami. I think it's absolutely beautiful and the water is so beautiful. That's just a little bit about me. So, yeah. And
Yeah.
I just finished my master's and it was a 2-year program through Northeastern. So I am just kind of coming off of that. Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
that's a little bit.
Yeah, yeah. Thank you so much, Samantha. So, focusing a bit on your professional career, I want to hear you took some pretty big steps from several different companies. I kind of want to hear about those transitions and
Yeah.
what you found challenging, and what were some really reasons that pushed you to land where you are today.
Yeah, I think the coming out of school and trying to get a job, that was back in 2007, 2008 season. Um, I think it's probably more, if not more challenging now, but it was very hard. There weren't a lot of jobs, and um, it was a challenge to kind of see other classmates also getting positions and you still having to go and audition all over the place. So after school, I auditioned, I think, in like 20 to 30 different companies. My dad was the audition. He accompanied me to all my auditions. So he would take me, we would go all over Atlanta, Houston, Ohio. I mean, we went everywhere, yeah, to audition. And I couldn't get anything. I just continued to have that rejection. And so that was actually something that I look back and I say, okay, that was actually positive because it taught me to uh, understand how to accept criticism and
Yeah.
process it, which is
Yeah.
it's really hard in our career. It's a lot of that. So
Yeah.
in different forms.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I happen to love hearing this because
Yeah.
when we're in it, when we're in that process, and it's been over a decade since that time, but when we are in the nitty gritty of it, it can feel so discouraging. And to have somebody say like, this is the reality. This is how you build resilience. It's so hard to even believe it at the time, but to hear you now speak in hindsight, knowing how far you've come in your career and continue to go in your career, it's really positive. It's really reassuring for a lot of dancers. I was actually just having this is like complete um, uh, side note. I was
Yeah.
having a conversation with a good friend. I have an 8-year-old, and we were talking about our sons. And trying out for all these different sport teams, and like a
Yeah.
big thing, they're into basketball right now, and we've been doing all that whole road,
Yeah.
and there's been a lot of rejection in my house, in a good way, right, in a
Yeah.
really good way. And like, it's that's the mindset that I'm trying to instill in my son, and that's exactly what I want you to expand a little bit more on, because at the end of the day, all of those experience, I mean, hearing auditioning for 20 to 30 companies, like that is a lot of
Yeah.
that's a lot of rejection. That's building
Right.
resilience,
Yeah.
and that's I want to hear a little bit more about that and like how you moved through that.
Yeah, I think it was definitely and it's probably around also very much around the age of your children. You said 8. Say 8? That
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah,
That's
yeah.
hard. That's a hard age, especially to take
It's so hard.
criticism, you
Oh
know.
my
Like
God, yes.
and it's everywhere, but it's
Everywhere.
also part of the process. And
Yeah.
when you're, in dance, when you're auditioning and you're not, there's a large group of people auditioning. you're put in a situation where you have to process rejection, you have to build confidence, and then you also have to like navigate working beside someone that might get the opportunity.
Yes.
And these things all are brought through. These are consistent things that are brought through. Like if a student was then to join in a professional company, there are going to be similar things. You know, we deal with casting, we deal with not getting to do a certain performance that maybe we have someone in the audience. You know, there are a lot of like different ways it comes out. And then that you see, oh, I already dealt with this. I know how to process it. I know how to handle it. I need to keep moving forward. I think when I first was dealing with it, it was obviously very difficult. And to try to work through it was like challenging. I mean, you're being told no, and you're being told you're not good enough, and like you don't have the right body. And so there are things that you can do. One is just, for me, I had to just accept myself like completely and just say, this is who I am, and these are the things I am really good at, and I can show you that and work on those, you know, making those things better. And then also like in the actual audition, you know, you're standing in front of maybe like a panel of 5 or 6 different people, one's from the school, one's from the company, whatever. And those are all different. Those are just people, you know, like you hope maybe you're even going to get to be one of those people in later on in your life. But those are certain opinions that you can kind of use as, you know, if they were to give you feedback, which some of them did, which was really great. You know, you can use those critiques to help you navigate forward and build your confidence.
Yeah.
And yeah. And I think communication is changing these now. I think it's important, like how we speak to each other. So in auditions, if someone gives you feedback, I think it's going to be given in a way that's more constructive. And that just helps you, you know, that's just so much better to have a constructive form of language to process something.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you probably can speak a lot on that too, just coming from like the educator side of it too. I mean, I'm sure there has been a shift in the last more than a decade of how the audition process proceeds in regards to getting that constructive feedback, because there's also that challenging point or experience that a dancer has as to when do you move past, or how do you move past the disappointment to be able to access the motivation that you're talking about, to allow it to allow you to start accepting who you are and start, because that's a huge mindset shift that not every 16-year-old dancer is going to be able to access and say, okay, this is who I am, this is what I bring to the table. Let me, you know, that's a hard. Big one. Yeah. That's a big one.
I mean, I think it takes experience in the realm of like not having the opportunity, but also I was like very adamant about becoming a ballet dancer. Like this was what I was going to do. And I was like, I know I can do it. I just have to keep my eye on the ball. And I think as much as there's so much outside distraction, that's the goal. So whatever you need to do to get there, there were a lot of people telling me, I'm not going to get a job. I'm not going to dance. I'm never going to get a job in the United States. I need to go overseas. Like people trying to get me jobs. And I wanted to do that on my own. And that was something that was very important to me, because I want to be able to look back and say, well, I earned that. And that's something that I was able to accomplish. And I think having dealt with, you know, a couple of years where I was like, you know, auditioning and not getting something and trying to figure out how to get there, you know, you learn. I think it's also processing the learning experience of it. You have to know that it's not going to be easy. And as, like I said, at a 16-year-old, at an age like that, it can be really challenging and discouraging.
I guess it's interesting though, because as you're speaking, I'm thinking again with the entire industry, and we're talking, like you said earlier, every industry in regard to from dance to youth sports. A lot has shifted younger. You know, a lot has shifted in the sense of dancers are, they do experience a lot of disappointment even way before those pre-professional years,
Yeah.
like 16, 17, 18. So I think it's a really good point that you make in regard to that. You got to have the experience. You have to have experience in disappointment,
Yeah.
right? In order to continue, like a snowball effect, build on that framework, right? To build that confidence. Not to shift gears too much, but I am curious to hear from the nutrition perspective, because that's obviously where I come from.
Right.
When did you start making the connections between your dancing and how you're fueling your body?
Yeah, it was not in school,
Mm-hmm.
so that was hard for me. I don't think I realized it till I was performing professionally
Mm-hmm.
on a consistent level. And I would come home and have something that wasn't didn't have protein. It was just like you're on this adrenaline high after you perform, and when you come home, you just want to have snacks and like just like you're excited and you know the recovery like I wasn't recovering. And then when I was starting to do like triple bills where I would every night I was like doing all three ballets, or then I was doing two ballets and I would go back to three ballets, and how amazing that was. But I was like not feeling my body properly at all, and it actually shifted in the rehearsal period too, because you're working 6 hours and I was working 6 hours a day. And so you have 3 hours in the morning, and then you have a lunch break, and then you have 3 more hours. Well, that second extra 3 hours at the end of the day was really hard to focus and process. And we would be learning choreography or running ballets. And I realized that I wasn't having like a good combination of protein, like healthy, like
Mm-hmm.
carbs, and fats.
Yeah.
And like lots of electrolytes and fluid and everything that needed my body was actually needing it, and I didn't understand how to do that. So when I turned 30, which is way too late. If anybody is listening, you should be doing this way before. It's like, I actually started like really looking at everything that I was inputting in a healthy way, because in school I didn't even understand that, and I think I actually like limited what I was eating. And at that time in the early 2000s, I think it was even more challenging. The you are kind of have to be this, if I felt like, at least personally, I felt like there was like a certain way you had to look,
Mm-hmm.
and for ballet,
Mm-hmm.
and that was hard for me to
Of course.
process.
Of
And
course.
so then that changed my eating habits.
Of
So
course.
yeah, sorry, go ahead.
No,
It wasn't so
sorry.
late,
Sorry.
it wasn't, yeah, I was going to go into that, but so
Yeah.
um
Yeah. No, you raise a lot of realities here that dancers face,
yeah,
is that oftentimes we see those restrictive eating behaviors spark in the younger years because of those industry pressures. And listen, I do think that there's still a lot of noise out there
yeah,
in regards to aesthetics and dance and food,
right,
right, and restrictive eating. With that being said, I do think there's been a huge
yeah,
shift in the recent years, which is great, and it'll continue to
right,
shift even if slow. But with that being said, what's really hitting home here is the performance
right,
impact, right? I mean, that recovery, being able to hear that when you were having those 3 hour mornings to 3 hour afternoons, probably very difficult to get through those afternoons if your body really wasn't equipped
yeah,
with the nutrients it needed and enough of those nutrients.
yeah. I think I didn't know how much it could make a difference fueling your body.
Mm-hmm.
I think
Mm-hmm.
people are afraid sometimes to have 3 full meals a day and snacks in between. And that is like what I do now to get
Mm-hmm.
through, even if I'm not dancing a full day, because I have to recover for the next day. But in the performance realm, like coming home and having like a protein pasta, like a vegetable, but it doesn't have to be a lot. But it's because it's so late, we get home at like 10:30, 11, and then we try to go to bed at midnight to get up to go to the show, to the day, it's very late to be
Yeah.
able to sit down and have a meal. That's hard for people. But in the professional world, I think that's part of what we do. And so changing that habit to something that was like really effective, I would wake up feeling, I would sleep one, and I would wake up feeling like I could push through another triple bill or another, double bill, or full length ballet. Like I just come off Swan Lake, and my whole eating, I had everything planned out so that I was getting plenty of protein like 2 weeks in before to reserve for when I actually was doing Odette deal. So there's a lot of like, it's important to really work that into the career, because it will make you stronger and healthier and safer. Yeah. Because when you're not fueled, your mind goes off and you're not really thinking as well as you could. Yeah. So I think like everything that you're bringing to social media and beyond, I think is so important, because we don't realize until we're actually fueling ourselves that it makes a big difference.
Yeah. Yeah, it's absolutely. And one thing you said earlier that also is a really good take-home message is that it's very easy for dancers to not think about what they eat and about nutrition because of the way their schedules run, them being so busy, but also just like the physiological shifts that happen when we're dancing at that level, the adrenaline rush really it blunts appetite cues. And a lot of dancers will come home from a long performance and not feel hungry at all, or just want to like relax and veg out, and they're feeling exhausted. But just as you said in your words exactly, like making the fueling effort part of your career, that's what's so important here, right? Yeah. It's really dismantling those fears that you spoke about in regards to eating more and eating enough, and then realizing like, okay, I can't have such a laid back approach to this. I actually have to be very, what I call a very proactive approach to fueling our bodies because of all of those natural obstacles that come our way.
Yeah, absolutely. I think even finding a way to, even in a healthy sense, tracking what you're having, you might think, oh, I'm having plenty of protein, but when you actually lay it out, you're not having plenty of protein or carbohydrate. You're actually limiting those things. And then you think, oh, I'm having a huge meal, but I'm not really finding everything that is going to make it really positive for me on the other side. And I think it's really important to make it part of part of the routine. Like I said, your interrehearsal periods for school, these students are training to, from 10 to, or even 9:45 to, sometimes have students till like 8 o'clock at night, and with breaks in between. But when you have that type of schedule, your body, it's hard for your body to work the same as it is at 9:45 in the morning, unless you're bringing to it what it needs, I think that's really important. Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah. That's a great point.
Yeah. And it's not something that, like, when you go into train in ballet, you're not really thinking about. I mean, I never was really, when I was younger, I was like not thinking about exactly what I ate. And you could, like, when I say that, I'm thinking, I'm like, I was just having whatever because I was growing up, like you have to, but, and that's, you should now be open to, you want your metabolism to keep running naturally and normally. In order to do that, feed it, you have to feed it.
Absolutely. Yeah. No, this is all great points. Samantha, I am curious to also hear about how I know the mentorship program is not necessarily at the forefront right now, but it was for a good 5 years, as you mentioned. So would love to hear about how you encouraged your dancers to really prioritize balance in their lives to help support their training.
Yeah, we talked a lot about, when you're in the classroom, what ways how you can find your best focus by setting large goals, setting small goals in the beginning of the year, and then referring back to those throughout the year to make sure your eye's on the ball and whatever sense you want, and then also finding things outside, in the school world, it's a little bit harder because you're training for so long. Yeah. And you're not, and your goal is to get a job. That's what these pre-professional students, that's what their hope is, a lot in the dance world in some capacity, or go to school in the dance program, so that's their main focus. And tunnel vision is is okay and when you're in that particular subject, you know, you're going into ballet for the day, that's what you're doing.
Mm-hmm.
And then when you leave ballet, it's okay to balance it with a hobby or something else that you find like relieving, so that, because I think it adds to the person that you are when you go back into the studio. And I think I learned that later in life, the same with fueling my body. I learned that having a balance between work, professional and personal life, that made it better for me when I was dancing. I enjoyed it more. And until you experience that, I think people are scared of that because they're like, oh no, I have to put every waking moment into ballet. Yes, of course you want to be focused and have goals, but there are ways to, you know, take a course online, go to, you know, find ways to go out, read a book, go outside into the world, off social media, go into nature, you know, because that's important, you know, to find ways to be, you know, and have friends and just your mind is stronger when you take a break, you know. It's just the way your body is. Your body's so strong when you take a break, and you're scared of the break, but it makes it better.
Yeah, absolutely. It's like you got to take a couple steps back in order to move forward. It's a cliche reminder, but it truly, it means a lot. It's very true. Samantha, I would love to just kind of wrap up with one overarching question that I ask everybody, and you've answered it in multiple ways throughout this conversation, but I'm going to throw it out there anyway. How would you redefine what it means to be the healthy dancer?
So the healthy dancer it's an entire it's the idea of being a well-rounded individual. You're placing yourself in the dance world, you're placing yourself in the tech world, you're placing yourself in the legal system. Whatever you're doing, you are the best you can be. And for the healthy dancer, if you're prioritizing dance, then you're the priority. Your body's a temple. You have to take care of it so that then you can be the best dancer that you can be, and then you can progress the best that you can be. So I think that's how I would define the healthy dancer.
Yeah, I love that. It's so true because in today's world, it's so easy for us to stay very external, right? Like we are constantly being pulled, whether it's on social media, whether it's on our phones.
Right.
It's easy to get distracted.
Yeah.
It's easy, even for the most hyper focused dancer, it's still easy to get distracted on the competition, on the external factors that, yes, to some degree can help motivate us in the studio, can also really continuously discourage us as well. So we really, just as you said, have to really remain true to ourselves to access internally what our strengths are, like what you said earlier for auditions, and build that confidence, knowing that like this is what I have, this is what I can offer, and I really have to take that and run with it.
Yeah, prioritizing yourself and emphasizing and focusing on what makes you to bring to the table, to present that confidently, I think is a really important thing.
Yeah, Samantha, thank you so much for joining me today. It was such a pleasure and an honor to connect with you.
Oh, thank you. The same to you. Thank you for having me. Nice to chat with you. And I'm going to keep everything that you do, I'm doing. So
yes. that makes me happy, and you're an inspiration yourself. So we will stay connected, and I'll talk to you soon.